An ancient Greek philosopher, Aristotle, described man as a political animal owing to man's power of speech and moral reasoning. Simply put, man and politics are inseparable. Now, politics is full of intrigues, which is largely triggered by divergent views, principles, and interest. The polity in Rivers State is heated up with the proposed impeachment of the Rivers State Governor Siminalaye Fubara, and this has led to an uneasy calm in some parts of Port Harcourt. Fears are high that there is a possibility of a breakdown of law and order if this development is not properly handled by security agencies. We'll be talking much more on this, and we have joining us via Zoom, Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, who is a political analyst, political affairs analyst, joining us to give perspectives to some of these issues. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor, on Daybreak this morning. Hello? Can you hear me, Doctor? All right. So if you can hear me, Doctor, let's get your take first on what's happening in Rivers State. Yesterday, we saw the drama between, the former Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, was not in Rivers State as of yesterday, but everything that happened yesterday is pointing to him. A lot of people have concluded that he has something to do with what's happening, the impeachment move against the current governor, Sim Fubara. What do you make of what's happening there?
Well, it's quite unfortunate that a thing like that is happening under a democratic dispensation, where differences are to be ironed out peacefully through dialogue and negotiation and not the use of violence. It's an aberration in a democracy to use violence to settle whatever differences there are. So it's quite unfortunate that River State is witnessing such a very horrendous scene that led to the burning of the State House of Assembly. At the end of it all is the people that will suffer, because the resources that are supposed to be used to provide healthcare delivery, schools and other amenities and social services that the people needed daily, that will be used to rebuild such lost infrastructure. And God forbid, if lives were lost, those lives would not be recovered anytime soon. Therefore, it's quite unfortunate. But as you rightly observed, what is happening in Rivers State is a case of two insincere persons that have come into agreements that they knew that they are not going to fulfill, because it is not even possible to have such an agreement, and then you have such agreement binding on any one of them. For instance, the Honorable Minister Wike, who happens to be two-term governor of Rivers State, rebelled against his benefactor, who happens to be his friend, the former minister Rotimi Amechi. When Rotimi Amechi fielded a different candidate other than him, he said it was unacceptable. And then the battle line was drawn, and we saw what happened in Rivers State. We saw how many lives that were lost in 2015 election and the subsequent election. And he equally encouraged people. It is on record that even Wike himself encouraged Lagos State governors to fight against godfatherism. And he never allowed anybody to control him. He ruled Rivers State the way he wanted. The oppositions were silent. And then even some of the properties belonging to opposition politicians were targeted in Rivers State because he wanted to be in charge. And he always liked to be in charge. So what is he thinking? Did he think that Fubara wouldn't want to be in charge? This is the question we should ask ourselves. If you know that nobody controlled you and you don't want to be controlled by anybody, you don't like being dictated to, you are the alpha and omega in your state, and then because you assisted somebody to win election and you thought that you could still control that person simply because you filled the parliament with your loyalists, the local government with your loyalists, and you think that the person will not fight back. And no man loves to be controlled. In fact, man rebelled and is still rebelling against God, and God is patient and is waiting for us. So to rebel is in human nature. You can't predict anybody. So don't think that because you have an agreement with somebody and the person will do your bidding. The person may agree, know fully well that he or she wanted to get the power that he or she needed, and at the end of it all, so he should have learned from what has happened with his own predecessors, who thought that they could manage either their deputy by giving their deputy the reign of power, or people that they thought are pliant, that do not possess independent mind, that will always run to them. And as soon as they assume power, they change their mind and they want to assert, they want to be in charge. It is not done. That as a sitting governor, you appointed almost everybody, including commissioners for me, without any input.
In Nigeria, I mean, we saw what happened between the governor of Edo and the deputy governor, and we are seeing this, just like you mentioned earlier, about Wike also fighting against godfatherism. But right now, it's been pushed forward. That is what is happening between him and Fubara at the moment. And also, there's a video that is, resurfacing on social media where Ayo Fayoshe, I think, in one of the inauguration celebration party for Fubara, where he was warning Fubara against having any dispute with Wike. But at that video, it just pointed out as though it is okay for people to be on the nerve of people, for people to have godfatherism, and you have to, still be ruled by that godfather of yours. We have the same thing that happened also in Kano State. Let's not forget. So, do you think the Nigerian politics is actually pushing or enabling this godfatherism system in Nigeria? All right, Doctor, are you with us on that one? Because, yes, Ayuba, I saw that video, and all that, came to my mind was, what is happening? I mean, nobody is actually saying that it is not okay to respect someone who puts you in power. But then when you're even saying it in front of everyone that, okay, we know this person has his own issue and anything can go wrong. So make sure you just listen to him.
Yes, perhaps what we should also be interrogating is, why should anyone want to put anybody in power in the first place? Like, okay, this is a democratic dispensation, right? It's okay to mentor people. It's okay to, there's a very thin line between mentoring and godfatherism in Nigerian politics. Indeed. And we need to separate the two. So it gets bad, when you begin to have, godfatherism in politics and people trying to dictate and all.
Exactly.
But I think we have Dr. back now.
All right, Doctor, just, before the connection, the question is, do you think the Nigerian people, is actually enabling godfatherism in Nigerian politics?
Yes, of course, in some ways, because Nigerian politics is so expensive. And that boils down to what you need to do as a politician in order to win election. From giving out Maggi to Indomie to rappers, host of other things, and wherever you go to, women association, youth association, you have to drop money. You have to be responsible for your agents that will protect your interests on the day of the polls, and so on and so forth. So it requires a lot of money. And this is where the godfathers usually come in, as people that understand the terrain and have amassed wealth to invest in the next election. And that explains why some governors could unpick their successors and still impose their successors on almost everybody, including the state. And that was what Wike did in Rivers State. He has the capacity, the wherewithal to do that, and he did it. And now, it is not bad to have a godfather. When you have a godfather, as my brother was explaining earlier on, a godfather that is supporting you, that is assisting you to understand the terrain, that is letting you know that this is the best way you could tackle some issues because he has been there before, which means the godfather is assisting you to succeed. but not a godfather that is dictating to you, that doesn't want you to take action on your own so that you can be responsible for your action. And then when the time for questioning comes, you should be able to explain the rationale why you did what you did. Now, if you have a godfather that is dictating everything to you, you are to just rubber stamp, assuming if all that is telling you will land you in EFCC after your 4 years. Who is going to explain? Are you going to tell EFCC that it was my godfather that said I should give contract without due process? Are you going to tell EFCC that we had an agreement with my godfather that I will be remitting 1 billion naira to him every month or every week? Is that what you're going to tell EFCC? So that is where the fracas usually break out, because these godsons will just tell their godfathers that, look, it is not possible. We are seeing, for now, a healthy relationship in Kano State between Governor Abba and his benefactor, former governor and senator Ponkoso, who was two-time governor of the state, and then he started supporting Abba. They contested the election and failed. They contested again, and then they won. And nobody has heard anything between them for now. That is from my own perspective. Right, this is what we're looking forward to. Assist me to succeed, but allow me to learn by making mistakes and learning from my mistakes, so that I can be able to explain when asked to explain. Not that you just give me a list of, say, 20 persons and say, these are the commissioners. All I need to do is just to append my signature. Does that mean I don't have my own supporters that I want to include in the cabinet? Or that so project is supposed to go to so area, so project does not supposed to go to so area? Am I not the governor of the state? Can't I decide based on my rational thinking? So it is even an insult that you have a grown-up man that is up to 50 years, another grown-up man that is 50 years is trying to control the person and dictate to the person. It's not done.
Okay, doctor, let's go into the fabrics of the matter. Why do you think that this is happening at such a time like this? I mean, this is a new governor that is barely, how many months? 6 months into office, and we are already seeing an attempt by the State Assembly to impeach him. Why should this go that far? I mean, in such a short time. What had the governor done that is so serious that will warrant, an impeachment move against him?
Up to this moment, I've not impeachable offenses that the governor has committed, either by way of gossiping or impeachment notice or a letter to the governor detailing his infractions. I know for sure that two things usually happen when you find things like this going on in any state polity. The first is that the State House of Assembly members must have placed a demand on the governor, which the governor may have found to be outrageous, and then decline. The second thing, again, within that context, is maybe the governor had given out contract and has received some kickbacks, and then the State House of Assembly is not carried along. All of these are personal interests. It's not about whether the governor has performed or is not performing, whether it is obeying the Constitution and the rules governing conduct or not. Then the other thing again is at the BS of the godfather, who gave them the ticket to contest and bankroll their elections. Sometimes what the godfathers usually do is to ensure that when you are unpicked to contest an election, especially as the governor or as the president, they want to control the because they believe that at any point in time you may renege on the agreements, several agreements that have gone into play into the making you of the governor. So what they do is to ensure that they control the State House of Assembly. The majority is in their hands. Okay. And if they realize that you are not doing what you're supposed to do, the State House of Assembly is instigated to impeach the governor, whether the governor is performing or not.
Okay, Doctor, do you think that perhaps in our Constitution or in the provisions of the law gives room for abuse of this power of impeachment by State Assembly? So, for instance, people talk about gross misconduct as the grounds, for impeachment according to the law. But how do you define gross misconduct?
That is a very powerful question. You see, one of the things that I hate in our crime busting attempts in Nigeria is the fact that if you're in the good books of those that are supposed to supervise you, those that are supposed to discipline you, you are not supervised, you are not disciplined until when you no longer service their interest, that they suddenly remember that you've committed some infraction. Gross misconducts are mostly defined in the Constitution. They are defined by statutory laws. For instance, if you go to ICPC Act, functions and responsibilities and what constitute offenses that relate to public dealings, they are listed there. If you go to statute books of, say, EFCC 2, you find some of almost all of this definition, what constitute gross misconduct in office. So seriously, what used to happen is if you are committing infractions and then this infraction is benefiting those that are supposed to act as a watchdog over you, they say nothing until such a time that they feel that they are no longer carried along what we use for equal access and distribution of kickbacks or benefit or illegal benefits that has come to political office holders. So they know that whatever this person is doing either conforms to the law or is against the law. And if it's against the law, they have the right to question the person by at least first bringing to the notice of the person for more or less like a query to say we observe so infraction, and you need to explain why there are infraction. Then if the explanations are not cogent enough, before you can now move to serving the person impeachment notice. But this, all of a sudden, no query, no nothing, no audit has been carried out, and then the next thing is impeachment. No.
All right. We have joining also in this conversation Daily Trust columnist Monima Damibo, who is in Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning. We'd like to get your own take on this matter. Thank you for joining. Are you there? Okay, let me go back to Doctor. Doctor, the governor has been accused in some, based on speculations anyways, that in an attempt to purge his government of loyalists of the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, he went ahead to dismiss, quite a number of people, a lot of appointees, and even local government chairmen of River State and so on. And some people are saying, well, he doesn't have the right to, dismiss local government chairmen, especially. But even though he has the powers to sack appointees who perhaps he felt were more loyal to his former boss, sort of. I mean, let's not forget that he was Accountant General for Nyesom Wike at the time. So within that context, is it justifiable then what's happening now?
Oh, yeah, of course. For every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. The reaction from the Wike camp is, understandable because they want to protect whatever they've fought for, and then they feel that they have the right to partake in the governance of River State. But as I said earlier on, there come a point that the governor may decide to say, I want to be in charge. And don't forget the fact that in most of the states, state governors usually use caretaker chairmen to run the affairs of local government. If they are duly elected, the governor has no right to sack any of the local government chairmen. But if they are caretaker chairmen who are not elected but appointed, and he feels that he wants to take charge, he wants to be in control, and he decided to sack these persons based on the fact that you understood that their loyalty is with Wike, and that they are in conflict with Wike, and they are likely to support Wike, and that may cost him his job. Then survival will dictate that he sack them the way he has done. But if they are elected representatives at the local government level and he decided to sack them, that is an abuse of the constitutional provision of Nigeria, because election is the only recognized means of getting people to power. And then you can get people out of power once they assume power through election, either by way of impeachment, or that the person has completed his tenure, or the person died in the process. This is one of the natural causes that could take somebody out of office and would require that election be conducted to fill that vacancy. So if the governor decided to sack the local government chairman who were elected, though I'm not aware if elections were conducted into local government areas in Rivers State, or if that has been done and they are duly elected, then it is wrong of him to sack them. But it is not, if you look at it from the point of survival, not really bad if he decides to sack some loyalists that are appointees of his government. He has the right, and he is the one that is constitutionally endowed to hire and fire anybody that he has appointed. So Doctor, whether they are recommended by Governor Nyeso Wike or they are recommended by any other person, if you feel that he doesn't need them based on exigencies of time or what is happening, he has the right to fire them.
Doctor, speaking on survival, I thought at the end of the day, it's all about the state, the welfare of the people, and not, the person, where there's always the saying, Nigeria is bigger than one person. But away from that, let's talk about the impeachment that also happened in the House of Assembly, there, the State House of Assembly, where we saw them, voting against the House leader, Edison Ehi. What is your take on that one? The speediness of that decision, I would say, was not really constitutional. What's your take on that?
You see, changing of leadership in Nigerian parliament is something that can come at any time. Leadership of the House is just to say, let us appoint somebody that will assist us to conduct ourselves peacefully. But because of what goes with that, the amount of resources that are voted, then it becomes very, very important that the state governors control who becomes what. And if we're talking about a certain that was coming out of the fact that somebody somewhere wanted to control the government, the godfather may have his way initially nominating the person he feels is comfortable with. And that is the point. Once you allow yourself to be identified with somebody, once the fight starts, it is not the godfather that will bear the brunt, it is you. Because you've already unveiled yourself as his ally and a strong supporter, and that you are ready to do his biddings. So you are even the first target, and that is what we've seen. What has happened? Two things has happened to Rivers State House of Assembly. The complex was burnt down, which means the environment they needed to conduct business is no longer there. So the governor could get some kind of respite from the impeachment. Then the second thing again is that the House has now been divided into pro and then against. Exactly. And that was why I said it is about survival first, not about the state now, which is unfortunate because it is about the state. The governance of the state is about the state. Exactly. Who does what is about the state. But we've personalized these things because...
Hello, Doctor, if you can hear me, this is exactly the point that I'm trying to raise, or I'll say the question I'm trying to ask now, that how is it that our state assemblies till date are still unable to assert themselves as an arm of government that is supposed to checkmate and, also exercise that oversight function over the executive arm of government? Because as it stands now, we have a divided house. In one breath, we have a faction that have, decided that they don't want Edison Ehi as the leader, and then another faction has gone ahead to elect him as the Speaker of the House. So you have a divided house, and this is not a one-case scenario. It happened also in Nasarawa State, and each time this happens, you see that there seems to be a collusion between either the governor or some, political figure in the state and the legislative arm in the state. So the legislative arm asserting itself as an arm that is supposed to be independent, sort of. Why has it become so difficult?
Well, it has to do with at least three things. One is the quality of the people that used to go to State House of Assembly. Since 1999, there is a trend, and the trend has always been that whenever there is election to be conducted in any state to fill the existing political offices, such as the office of the governor and state houses of assembly, including local government chairmen and councillors, the godfathers usually sit and then recruit people that do not have, one, principle, two, the requisite qualification and discipline to be able to say no based on principle and to be able to stick to those principles. They make sure that they look for people that have this very particular cravings to have access to public tilt. So such persons are recruited, and then they are left at the mercy of the governor. And even the selection of the principal officers of the state, they must be loyal to either the godfather that brought the governor or to the governor. Else, they will not get anything apart from their sitting allowance. And most of them are not dependent on their sitting allowances or their salaries. They want contract, they want patronage from the state government. So they are always at the beck and call of the governors.
So, Doctor, do you think Nigerians, made the right choice with the set of people that have been selected into the political office, considering that at this point where Nigerian citizens are crying, due to the economic hardship and what's going on, yet there is a different fractions, having issues. There is one that is still ongoing in Ondo. We recently got one settled a bit in Edo State as well. Do you think this is the right time for the leaders that promise to push the nation forward having these issues instead of focusing on
it's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate that in Nigeria we pretend that we are aspiring to public offices to serve the people, and as soon as we get to these public offices, we turn everything around and turn it to be about us. And that is what is playing out even at the National Assembly. If not, how do we explain a situation where the federal government is saying that it can barely pay salaries of public workers, and the same National Assembly is voting 160 billion to purchase vehicles for its members? And then they will tell you that they need these vehicles to serve the people. Do you need any vehicle to serve the people? Where do they travel to once they're in Abuja? And that is why we've been advocating that we should make this very particular business of governance a part-time thing. If you want to come to parliament, remain in your state. You only come once in a while to endorse whatever is there, and then you go back to face your businesses. Now, governance has been turned into open access to government resources to fund our luxuries. Vehicles that they cannot purchase. Some of them cannot purchase on their own. Because it is public funds, they are going to use it to purchase those things. Because it is for public funds, they are going to allocate among us resources for their furnishing, for their houses, and even for their pets. This is unacceptable. We're talking about a nation that is on the throes of dying because of different challenges, from poverty to unemployment to insurgency to lack of physical cash that's supposed to be used to talk about lecturers' demand as well as medical.
Dr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, thank you so much for your time this morning, a political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us.